The Food Standards Agency is now investigating how traces of pork ended up in some halal products supplied to prisons. Well, those affected pies and pasties have been withdrawn, and the Ministry of Justice has now suspended the contract of one supplier. Ashish Joshi has this report.
For Muslims, it's simply non-negotiable. All food eaten must be halal, and that means meat can never, ever contain pork. But that's exactly what's happened to Muslim inmates in some British prisons. Meat pies and pasties that were supposed to be halal have been found to contain traces of pork. The supplier has been suspended and the Food Standards Agency called in.
What we've done in the investigation so far is we know who supplied the prison service and who supplied that supplier, but the food chain is long and often complex, so we have to search right the way back to find what the ingredient was that may have caused this, where that came from, and whether any other products may be affected.
Thousands of inmates could have been exposed to the contaminated meat. 5% of the UK's population is Muslim, and according to the latest official figures, Muslims make up 13% of the prison population in England and Wales. 1/5 of males in young offenders institutions also describe themselves as Muslim. The Ministry of Justice says it's a fundamental requirement that prisoners and members of staff are provided with meals which meet an individual's religious, cultural and medical dietary needs. So it's managed to breach its own guidelines. The ministry won't identify the supplier or say what prompted the investigation in the first place. But Justice Minister Jeremy Wright did say, "This is an absolutely unacceptable situation and one which we regret greatly. Clearly this must be distressing for those affected, and they can be reassured we are doing everything we can to resolve the situation." In its defence, the Ministry of Justice says the food was sourced from a halal-certified supplier. And that's where the problem might lie. Muslim rights campaigner Masood Shajara has been involved in this issue for decades. He told me there are too many halal authorities, and that compromises food regulation.
Imam comes and sees the place one day and gives a certificate for 2-3 years. And now there are some institutions who are authorities, and then they got nice logos and everything else, doing exactly the same thing. They are not accountable to anybody. They're actually giving these certificates and receiving the revenues actually pours in.
First there was the horse meat in burgers scandal, and now this. Consumer confidence is low. Explaining how this was allowed to happen might just help. Ashish Joshi, Sky News.